Welcome everybody. I'm Jehu Hand. I'm a candidate for the U.S. Senate to represent the state of California in 2024, and I'm here to give you this October 4th podcast. And this topic we have today is kind of a general topic, and I guess I'd call it the rise of left-wing authoritarianism. I know this may be kind of wonky and technical for some people, but it is really important because this is something not just about policy decisions that we have to make in our legislature, but also the tone of discourse and the kind of America we want to have. When I was a youth, I was really into reading literature, especially international literature, and I was probably 15 years old when I started reading The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Solzhenitsyn, you could say almost, in a sense, he single-handedly brought down the Soviet Union because he exposed the truth about the Gulag, that Soviet prison system, and the Stalinist society. Solzhenitsyn was an army officer during World War II, and in a letter sent home, he made a joke about Stalin. Of course, the military commissars were reading everyone's mail, and he got 5 years in Siberia. And I think his sentence was increased, and eventually he also got another sentence. He wrote about not only his experiences in the Gulag, but also the whole Soviet system. You know, the military and every organization had a political department that would ensure that all the Marxist teachings were properly taught, but also that everyone was conforming to that. You couldn't have your own opinion. And if you did have your own opinion, you didn't agree with the party line, literally, you couldn't have a responsible job, and you could face prison. Obviously that's not a good thing, and that's not what we want to have in America. Well, a lot of those ideas are creeping into America, and over the past 5 years this has accelerated. It's always been kind of there. Excuse me here, my notes fell down. You know, FDR is revered among a lot of people, but the U.S. was never closer to a dictatorship than under FDR. Think about internment camps, think about the rules regulating everyday life. For example, a New York tailor was sentenced to prison because he was pressing trousers for 5 or 10 cents less than the mandated price. Well, here's some things that have been happening, not just in America, but around the world. There's a lady called Isabel Vaughan Spruce, and she's in the UK citizen, and she's head of an organization that's against abortion. And there's a UK law that says you can't protest in front of an abortion clinic. Fine, so she was standing across the street with her eyes closed. And the policeman says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm standing here on the street." And he says, "Are you praying?" "Oh, I could be praying in my mind." And so she was arrested for her thoughts, for a thought crime. Eventually the uproar caused them to release her and not charge her, but that's the UK. In Canada, there's a famous psychologist. He used to be a well-respected professor of the University of Toronto named Jordan Peterson. I think he has some great videos and books that help a lot of people. And but I guess you'd say he's on the conservative side. And he issued a few tweets. There was a very heavy-set lady that was put on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and Mr. Peterson said something like, "Hey, I don't care what you say, she's not beautiful." And then he made a comment about a lady that had her breast removed as part of transitioning, and he said that was not right. And then there was he said that he called the former political associate of Justin Trudeau a prick. Now, for those statements, the regulatory body in Canada has said he's not fit to be a psychologist, and he has to undergo re-education in order to continue practicing clinical psychology. Relocation camps. We know that after the fall of Saigon, a lot of South Vietnamese just had to do that. They had to go to re-education camps where they had to learn the correct principles. Are we headed that way? Well, let me look at a few things, okay? First, I want to have a sidelight about one of my opponents in this race, Adam Schiff. Now, Adam Schiff is a perfect example of an authoritarian. He contacted Twitter in November 2020 and tried to persuade them to cancel the account or block the account of a journalist named Paul Sperry. And you can see the Twitter message right here from Matt Taibbi, who was brought in to go investigate by Elon Musk just exactly what Twitter had been doing. Here in this, you'll see that he claims that Paul Sperry is spreading QAnon conspiracies. Well, you look and see what Paul Sperry wrote about, had nothing to do with QAnon or anything he believed. Actually, Paul Sperry wrote an article where he reported that right after Trump was elected, these whistleblowers and so-called were planning right away to get Trump out of office. It was planned from the very start to get Trump impeached right from the get-go. And you know, this is a problem that we have of attitudes regarding free speech in this country. Real Clear Politics did a poll recently, and it says 40% of Democrats believe that speech should be legal only under free speech should be legal only under certain conditions. Well, as you know, the First Amendment doesn't have any conditions. There's a commonly quoted statement that says the First Amendment doesn't give you the right to say fire in a crowded theater. Well, that's not true. That case has been overturned a long time ago. What free speech that can be limited is speech that incites immediate physical violence. Okay? I don't think that Jordan Peterson was inciting physical violence, immediate physical violence, and I don't think that Paul Sperry was either. Went on to say that 75% of Democrats believe that government has a responsibility to censor hateful social media posts. Only 31% strongly agree with the statement. I disapprove what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Now, what is a hateful social media post? It's one that you don't agree with. 34% of Democrats say that Americans have too much freedom. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've got too much freedom. I think that I'd like to have more freedom. A few days ago, well actually today, it came out, this article in Newsweek, and various people have different interpretation of what this article means, but it basically says that the FBI is cracking down on domestic terrorism, and it's emphasizing Donald Trump's followers as domestic terrorists. And the FBI, came out with a statement saying, "Oh no, that article's not correct." One of the things, for example, the article talked about this happened in which office was it? A New Mexico office of the FBI, where they put out this directive that said we have to investigate Catholics who want to have the Mass said in Latin because they're dangerous. And the FBI came out and says, no, that's just one field office did it. And also there was a statement going out that the FBI was investigating parents who spoke up at school board meetings And the FBI said, no, that's just one office. There's an FBI whistleblower named Kyle Seraphim. Kyle Seraphim, and I encourage you to watch his podcasts, or listen to his podcasts. He says, why why the FBI's denial is untrue? He says, because I was assigned to that case, and it was in much more than in one field office. This is a widespread thing. Well, you pause to think about this. Let me bring up something that former Secretary of State and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton said. She said on CNN, okay? And sadly, and you can read about this in the Wall Street Journal too, and sadly, so many of these extremists, these MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. At some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen. Let me pause here. You know what deprogramming is? They grab you, they put you in a room, they persuade you by various means to give up your beliefs. Is that what Hillary Clinton's talking about? Is that where we're going? It seems so. And this is not some wide-eyed, wild-eyed, extremist, radical person. This is someone whose husband was president of the United States, someone who almost became president herself, someone who was Secretary of State. And she's calling for deprogramming people she doesn't agree with. I submit to you that her sentiments are not uncommon in the top echelons of the Democratic Party. They don't talk about it, but it's there.